So much has changed here on the Afterthoughts
Wow.
podcast. After the bye week, how's everyone feeling?
Feel great.
Feeling good?
Back and ready.
I, for one, feel fantastic.
Kayla?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, did you cut your hair?
I sure did. I wore a hat to not jar the audience, to
Yes.
immediately see me and think, what the H?
Also,
Well, watch your
you
letters.
You haven't been able to wear a hat in years.
Yeah,
and so
I'm
you have to
wearing
make
a
up
hat
for
every
lost time.
day. People are like, oh, you're wearing a hat because you don't like your haircut? I'm like, no, I'm wearing a hat because I love my haircut.
Okay.
So I didn't wear a hat for...
Don't bury
Should
the
I
lead.
reveal it?
The big reveal.
Whoa.
It's probably hat hair.
Let's
How's it
go.
look? We're
Whoa.
crazy right now, probably.
Wow.
I
I
think
had
it
a
looks.
hat on.
I think it looks great, man.
Looks great.
I'll
I
just go on
feel-
record saying
I
I,
feel
think
great.
you made a great decision cutting your hair,
Yeah.
and you look good.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
There it is. Everyone,
of
you
you,
can
E.
see it. I did cut
Wow.
my hair. It's not long. There's no man bun anymore.
Is it true you've eaten every meal at Hat Creek since you cut your
hats,
Yes.
dude.
since you cut your hair and wore a hat?
You know, people with long hair often wear hats, but it didn't work with my hair.
Oh, I see.
Because I didn't, like, it was a lot, and putting a bun through there and stuff, it just
Oh,
all
yeah.
fell apart all the time. But my hair was so curly, or is so curly.
Hat Creek has pretzel buns.
They do.
Yeah.
And they
Hat
have,
Creek is great. And that's one of our sponsors here at the Afterthoughts podcast.
The dessert.
That's where I got my hair cut, was at Hat Creek. Not true.
You get dirt
Kyle,
worms.
Kyle
and-
Mondragon, shout out, barber in Denver.
Ooh,
cut my hair.
You went to Denver to get the haircut.
It was.
That's why we had a bye week.
I had to go to my hometown.
Obviously.
I mean, Zeke and I got buddy cuts, and my nephew Milo.
That's
We all got
amazing.
our haircut together.
Very cool.
But my hair was like long and curly, so once it dried, if I had a hat on, I looked like I was going to a NASCAR race
Oh, right.
kind of guy. So nothing wrong with a NASCAR, but that's just not me. That
Yeah.
doesn't work with my.
So you don't have a
vibe.
problem with NASCAR, just to clarify?
I don't really like it,
Oh, okay.
but good for people that do.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did cut my hair. Now everyone can see it. Kayla?
Looks great.
Kayla was not happy.
I went along for the bitch.
Kayla did not want me to cut my hair.
Is this true, Kayla?
I think he let the Instagram comments get to him.
I didn't.
Oh.
Yeah.
Everyone, you know what?
Hmm.
Everyone's gonna have their opinion of why I cut my hair.
Well, hats off to you, Ethan,
Thank
Nice,
you.
for
Kayla.
cutting your hair.
Hats back on.
The only opinion that matters is mine.
Yeah.
Okay?
And you said it was good.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
I will say that in the process of deciding, there's a couple months where I was ready to cut it just because I was
Oh, yeah.
sick. You get sick of it, to be honest. I was just
bet.
tired of it. It's a
Yeah.
lot. And so I'd asked my wife, Stephanie, I'm like, well, do you like my long hair? Did you like it better when I had short hair? And she was very Switzerland, like, I like it either way, whatever. But the day I got my hair cut and she saw me, I was like, you have not looked at me like that in a while. So I think she prefers
In a
the
good way?
short hair. In a good way.
Oh,
In a good way.
okay.
In a good
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
All
I should
right.
have clarified that.
Yeah, that could go either
I didn't
way.
know if she was just
No,
disgusted
it's kind of like,
by you.
oh. I was like, well,
There you go.
yeah. And then her,
That's all
and-
you need.
her and Corey styled my hair for me to show me how to do it.
Yep.
So I feel
Important.
alive. I feel great.
Good. Happy for you, man. Proud
Yep.
of you.
It's
In-
still curly.
It is.
Okay.
I left some on top.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Thanks.
looks great.
Thanks for being on this journey with me, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. It's been a
no
journey.
curly fries at Hat Creek.
I'm working on that.
Okay.
I think they're inspired by my haircut. They're thinking about it. I like curly fries are so good.
Oh,
They
yeah,
are
Arby's?
underrated. Why isn't every
Dude.
fast food
Yeah.
restaurant doing curly fries?
really
That's
good.
my big question. Let's get into it.
I rebuzzed my hair yesterday. Nobody said anything.
Oh, Doug,
So,
you got
well,
a
actually,
haircut.
it's just on the sides, but you guys didn't say anything.
Doug, you got a great haircut.
It was like a 2. I took it to a 1, and nobody,
You know,
nothing
our-
today.
I'm so sorry.
Ironically, our YouTube career began with
You got a
a haircut.
Hey, someone got a haircut.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's good to be back.
If
to
you know,
talking
you
about
know,
haircuts.
and that's an
Yeah.
inside joke
And
between us
millions
and the
of
world.
people know. So an inside joke between us and the world.
Since our last episode, other than my haircut, more
Mhm.
important things have happened. You got to go on a cool trip, Ryan. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Yosemite
Hmm.
for the last 4 days on a rafting trip. Our good friend Raya is getting married next week. And so we did a little bachelor party for him. And it was so
That's cool.
fun.
Good.
He's like the ultimate like manly outdoors guy. And so
Didn't
the
he have an
bachelor
event
party,
called the Manly Outdoors Games?
manly travel games, they do it every
tribal games. Yeah.
Mhm.
every year. So it was very him. But 3 days of rafting
Mhm.
and sleeping under the stars.
Mm.
And there were some sketchy moments. There was a raft. We have the rafts, and then there's another raft that carries all the gear, like the sleeping bags and the food. And at the end of one of the days, it tried to get through a rapid, and it got caught on a rock, and it wrapped around the rock. And so the downriver part of it came up on the rock, and then the other part came down. And so all of the rushing water was filled the raft like instantly, and it was just stuck there.
Cool.
And so we cut all the gear off of it. And so we're all downstream, like trying to catch these bags as they come down. And then it still won't move. And so we have 3 ropes connected to the raft, and everybody's pulling. It's like tug of war against the river. And it was like an hour-long ordeal.
Whoa,
but eventually
no way.
it was so
Crazy.
fun and so wild.
Yeah.
But it's good. And then there's cliffs to jump off along the way.
You go cliff jumping?
Yeah.
How
and,
high, do you know?
It was like the last one was like 35 to 40 feet.
Oh,
yeah.
And
Okay.
all
That'll hurt if you do that wrong.
Yes.
all of his friends are like professional surfers and like these like wild guys that aren't afraid of anything.
Yeah.
And I have a slight fear of heights, you know? And so I'm
Get
like
that.
trying to be cool and like, yeah, no, I'll be fine up there
I'll do
too.
a gainer probably.
But I was very scared at that last one. But I did it.
That's,
And just a
you
blast.
sure have had yourself a John Eldridge summer, haven't you?
I really have.
Wild
man.
at
Wild
heart.
at heart.
Kayaked 80 miles in the ocean,
That's right.
Yosemite, cliff jumping, rafting.
Sleeping under the stars for a couple of nights and waking up clears your mind
All that's-
so well.
All that's left is you got to kill an animal.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
You choose what? Could be anything.
I
It
tried
is
to
your
do
choice.
that with Matt in Hawaii,
Oh.
spearfishing, and I had no luck.
Okay.
It's so
But
hard.
you tried.
Hey, first of all, on this trip that
Yeah.
you didn't have your phone at all, right?
No phone.
How was that?
Phenomenal. The first day is weird. The second day is fine. The third day is like the most freeing thing in
Yes.
the
Would
world.
you say it was phenomenal?
Phenomenal. I did not want to turn it back on. I'll tell you that.
Doug, other than your haircut, anything to update us on?
Will's birthday's yesterday.
Happy
Great
birthday,
job.
Got him
Will.
a bike.
Yes.
Woo!
A new bike. It's blue. It's got shocks.
Ooh,
Yes.
Yeah.
get some pegs on that
He's
thing.
he's pretty fired up about it, man.
Man. And he started
Yeah.
kindergarten.
Yeah, he started kindergarten.
Yeah.
What is that process like for you guys?
It's wild, man. It's crazy.
yeah.
First of all, he now has to leave the house by 7:05, which means my day now starts at 5 a.m.
Oh,
if I
yeah.
want to work out before
Yeah.
Yes.
Will gets up.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's another hour earlier.
Okay.
Good. But he and then his alarm is like, okay, 6:20.
Yeah.
You now have to get up he's now 6 years old.
Yeah.
And it was so fun last week because Thursday was the first day of school for him and 6:20 for the first time. And I thought he would be so nervous. And I did think he had some nerves.
Yeah.
But, and I was like getting breakfast ready in the kitchen, 6:20, knowing like in 2 minutes, I'm going to have to go obviously wake him up. But then I look over and he's coming down the stairs already dressed.
Let's
With
go.
a big
Will.
smile on his face, just at 6:20 in the morning,
Yep.
fired up for kindergarten.
Ready to roll.
So I'm really proud of him.
Cool.
But it's also, that was a wild feeling. I think it's more emotional for all the moms and dads who were there.
Oh, yeah.
Because he, went to kindergarten and then rode the bus home.
Cool.
Think about
Nice.
Will riding the bus home. I feel like he was just born.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But he's loving it. He's thriving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
How was it for Zeke?
On the first day driving to kindergarten, Zeke threw up yogurt all over himself.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
he didn't get to go on his
Oh,
first day, and he was really sad
oh,
because
bud.
he's excited.
Yeah.
Aw.
But the days since, he loves it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
He's having a blast. He just walks right in. He just like, see you, Dad.
Yep.
Have a great life.
Yeah.
Ready to go. He's got a new bestie.
Ooh.
Does he?
Yeah. I can't
Good.
remember. It's a girl. I can't remember her name. Janie or something.
Okay.
But
Nice.
that's good. It's good to know he has a friend there.
Yeah. Yeah. Of
But it
course.
is weird because you just send him in and you're like, all I'm gonna know that happens today is whatever you tell me on the other side. And he
Yeah.
I can't remember half of it already.
Uh-huh.
He's like, oh, I don't know. Did you do this? I don't know.
You
What
don't
was
get
your-
the form the
what was
teacher
your
sent
favorite
home
part?
anymore
Right.
every day, you know?
In
Right.
preschool, like our littler guy, Ray, there's an app. So you get updates.
Yes.
They don't have that in kindergarten.
No.
And
Wow.
but I know that he really loves lunchtime.
Yeah.
He likes to gets to go to the
cafeteria.
cafeteria
Uh-huh.
and eat. So that's exciting.
Fired up about lunchtime.
But you're so correct. That's been our biggest prayer is God help him to make friends.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
Yeah.
But thinking about like the father's heart towards us about
Mm.
the loneliness epidemic that's happening right now.
Yes.
I feel like there's nothing he wants more
Just
for his kids.
friends.
Like his biggest desire is
Community.
not that you'd be a louder voice in cultural wars,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but that you would just have a friend.
Have your people.
Yeah.
That's
Have
so
your
true.
people.
Speaking of cultural wars,
Uh-oh.
when we got back from Colorado, I was
Uh-oh.
driving down the street in my neighborhood, and I thought, oh, here we go. Political signs are out in the front yards.
Oh, they're out.
I don't know if there's like a day they go on sale or you can order them or something.
Yeah, I sell them all, so I know.
Yeah, Ryan, how does the industry
always,
work?
So August 15th, we always put them out.
Okay.
And then the closer we get, it's kind of a supply and demand thing. So we
Yeah.
hike the price up because people are more desperate.
Yeah.
And we can really clean up on them.
Would like to know what you guys think about that. Putting a political sign in your front yard.
Okay. I have a thought.
Great. Go.
You guys want to know it?
No.
Tune in
Ryan,
next
go ahead.
week to hear Doug's thought.
Well, first of all, I don't think I'd be shocked if anybody changed their vote because they saw a political sign in somebody's front yard.
Yeah. Or there's a study,
Or a bumper
there's
sticker.
a study that shows that no one has ever changed their opinion. course not.
That study just came out. That study
Yeah.
comes out every
It's
day.
100% true.
And says this does nothing. There is, however, I think what it is a sense of, you know, to piggyback off the loneliness epidemic, camaraderie
I'm part
and
of
being on a
something.
team.
Yeah.
It's the same reason we actually have this hat right here.
Somebody actually asked what this hat was. They saw it in the background. Denver Broncos.
Old school.
Mm-hmm.
Old school logo. But they're bringing it back more and more, which I like. Go ahead.
Everybody, it's a human thing to want to be part
Mm-hmm.
of something that is bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
I need to be on a team where we have a common mission and we can come together and, you know, this is what a win looks like. This is what losing looks like. This is how we rally to make sure we win. This is the cost that's at stake. It's like there's a gospel narrative to so many different like politics or sports, and there's an enemy and there's the good guy and you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And there's things you do and don't do, and everybody wants to be part of something. And I feel like it's the same thing as us having this hat or somebody having a UT sign in their front yard. It's just, hey, this is the team I'm on. And I feel like I'm part of something.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm doing something by having a sign here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I agree with all of that. I think that the older I get, the more I appreciate you hear everybody's opinions about politics.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate people who take some action toward whatever political
Yes.
candidate they want to see. We can argue about whether or not a sign in the front yard is the most fruitful action that you can take. But I do appreciate the proactive step, because really what they're probably thinking is, hey, in case anybody has questions about this candidate, they know that this is a place where they can ask questions.
Yeah.
Whether that's the mentality and that's how it actually plays out. Yeah. So I wouldn't do it personally. But whatever.
We know you wouldn't.
This is why.
Have you ever put a decoration out in your
Okay, my
front
neighbor,
yard? Okay.
dude, my neighbor's the best. She changes out like we both have flags at the front. And she asked me years ago, she was like, can I just put these flags like for seasonal, like football season or whatever in front of your house? And I said, absolutely. Sure. I promise you can put anything you want.
Yeah.
It's
Earlier
great.
this year, back in February, we showed up, me, Sam, and all the kids, and Luna showed up at your condo. Walking in, there's like a Valentine's Day flag outside his house. And Sam was just like, is this
You've got to be, we're at the wrong place.
Is this the wrong
There's no
townhome?
way.
And I'm like, no. She's like,
well,
Ryan put this out.
Ryan's
She was so confused. She's
He's a pretty big Valentine's Day
love
guy.
love, man.
That's his favorite holiday.
I just got my teeth cleaned, and I was setting up.
Okay, I guess this segment's called bragging.
And guess what?
What are you, rich?
Cool.
No cavities.
Oh, man.
Oh, double brag.
Dude, at the very end, they were setting up for 6 months from now, and it came out to February 14th. And she just goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. That's Valentine's Day. Is that okay?"
You're like,
I
that's
just
perfect.
laughed. I said, "Yeah,
Are you guys wide open that day?
We're
I'm your
good.
guy. That's perfect for me.
Uh-huh.
sign me up."
Well, I guess
I can
that
go
was-
anytime that day, including 8 p.m.
Yeah, 8 p.m. is fine. That's great.
Let me write down Ryan's very wealthy.
Uh-huh.
Turns out he has a dentist. So,
Wow.
wow, I didn't know you were a millionaire.
And he saved a few $100s because
on
he
the-
doesn't have to pay to get cavities filled.
That's right. On the political sign thing,
Yeah.
I disagree with you guys.
Go.
I do think that it is a camaraderie thing, but I don't think it's the same as putting a UT flag in your front yard. Because, and there are sports fans that are crazy, no one's trying to assassinate a quarterback of a football team. Okay? Let's just be real. Politics is in
Yes.
its own category by a mile.
Yes.
And to me, when I saw those signs in front yards, I felt in myself like a judgment that I'm not proud of, but I was like, don't want to talk to that person. Didn't know my neighbor there. Is that, you know, like
Yes.
you start to make the,
Uh-huh.
I think it's identifying to your neighborhood, this is who I am. And some of you are welcome to come talk about that. But if you disagree with me, you're not welcome here because of the cultural climate we live in. I did
Okay.
not feel more welcome in
Correct.
neighbors' front yards with
Yes.
political signs.
Uh-huh.
at all.
Agreed.
And
Yes.
maybe I'm saying this from a Christian perspective. So maybe it's not fair to put that on some of my neighbors because they may not see the world the way I do, different worldview. I think as a Christian, that's about the most detrimental thing you could do to your witness right now
Nice.
in this
Yeah.
country is to put a political sign in your front yard either way.
Yeah.
I think you are just cutting off half your audience
yeah.
and half of your neighborhood. And
Yeah.
the problem is everyone's going to make a judgment about you where if my neighbor has a Trump sign or my neighbor has a Kamala sign, I'm going to assume things about them that are not true. But because of the identity they just gave themselves, I'm going to assume
Mm-hmm.
you think this or you think this, and this is where you put yourself. So I actually hate them. I think it's awful.
The signs.
I think it's the dumbest thing.
Yes.
Well, and kind of other people, but
Love,
no,
love
like,
the neighborhood.
No,
signs,
okay, I had a
I
question.
despise those signs.
Because yes, I agree. I agree with you on that. Okay, so let's say the year is 1996.
Mhm.
Is it the same?
Probably
is it-
not.
Is it more close to this?
I guess my question
Because-
is, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because if you know no one's going to change their opinion, you know that. Nobody's going to go back, you know what? I am thinking about this.
I think a lot of people, if you have a feeling your person's not going to win,
Yeah.
you want everybody to know that 3 years from now, hey, this isn't my fault. This
You
is
did-
freaking all your faults.
That's
Yeah. I wanted it, and that's anybody can do that. That's really easy to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I want to make it known
Yeah.
that I was for this when all of you guys voted for it to be this,
that's such a
and now
good
look what
point.
happened. This is you, not on me.
That's
and
such
the
a
world
good
now
point.
knows it because I had a sign in my yard.
Yeah, we're trying to do something to relieve ourselves of the burden that we feel that the country. It's like the person that leaves the bumper sticker on like well
Yes.
after the election,
Yeah.
even though the candidate didn't win.
right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting take.
Because I have same. That is exactly right. I have a vivid memory of in Indiana walking home from school. I think it was 96 and it was Bill Clinton
Mm-hmm.
versus Bob Dole
Mm-hmm.
and seeing both signs.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very different,
Yeah,
there were
the
conversations
temperature is
happening. Oh,
Not
so
nearly as
different.
boiling as it is
So
today.
different, man. Yeah.
I just think you strip yourself of your humanity to the people around you,
Yes.
where all of a sudden they're just going to assume stuff about you. They're not going to. Some people won't ever want to get to know you because of the sign in your yard. They'll be like, "I'm never talking to that person,"
Yeah.
and that's not fair. And
Yeah.
and if they
Yeah.
did get to know, if you got to know your neighbor with that other sign, you'd
Yeah.
end up liking them. You disagree on things, but you'd end up finding a relationship with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that we already live in a culture that's so divided,
Yeah.
and we don't talk to our neighbors. We don't know our neighbors, right? That does not help.
It's kind of like to bring it back to Christianity, the person standing out with a sign that's like repent or perish on the street corner.
Mm-hmm.
And his response is like, well, people have to know the truth. And my rebuttal has always been, that's not the way to communicate the truth
Right.
to them.
Right.
Like if you really
No.
want them to know the truth, then get into build a relationship with them and work your way up to that, because they're not going to hear you if you just hold up a sign. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. It kind of makes you more annoying to everybody who doesn't believe what you believe.
Yeah.
So anybody who has that sign up, you're like, hey, that
Oh,
whole
yeah.
party,
Uh-huh.
and especially you, just got more annoying to me.
Yep.
And same with Christians. If you're not a Christian and you see that guy, like you're at the Domain or you're downtown Austin and that guy's out, kind of preaching that kind of message.
Yeah, you're so annoyed.
This is like, okay, thanks for validating my unbelief in your belief system even more.
so funny.
It does the opposite, but that person gets to feel noble for an afternoon.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm feeling?
Hmm.
I feel like everybody has strong political opinions and there aren't very many healthy outlets for it. And so we're all sitting here like, I don't know what to do with all of these strong feelings and where to talk about it. And so that's where you see it siphoned through social media in a very
I'm gonna buy a
aggressive
sign
way.
from Ryan Wekenman.
You see it, yeah, my sign business is blowing up.
It's true.
But I feel like the solution is how can we create space for people to have healthy, honoring conversations with people from the other side, where there's like civil debate happening again.
Yeah.
We just had the staff in Denver for Staff Advance, and one of the guys that came and spoke, one of the last things he said to our staff is, I think we need to learn as a culture how to disagree better. And that to me is so important these days, that really when it comes down to politics, we're not disagreeing well. We're disagreeing like kids.
Starting with the politicians themselves. That's the problem. When you say like we need to be able to have a healthy conversation, they can't do that. So then that just pushes everybody to see each other more and more as enemies.
Nor can the media, just in general.
And social media is like the bumper sticker or the yard sign of today. It's a modern version of that. So you have all of those things,
and
but
it's crazy because like even the DNC is happening right now. And if you get on YouTube and just see like, it depends on who is posting it. So if it's, you know, CNN, MSNBC, it kind of, every title is check out like the revival, so to speak, that's happening at the DNC right now. And then it's Fox News, or it's trouble in paradise, everything crumbling for the Democratic Party right
It's
now.
the same thing.
Well, we're talking though about the same, you know, so I remember doing,
nobody
dude,
trusts, that's why nobody trusts any piece of news.
you know how, and you can't, it's not a different vantage point.
Yeah.
It's a different agenda. Yeah. So, you know, the four gospels are written by four different guys from four different vantage points, watching the same thing and giving their honest take on it. Describing what they saw from where they were standing and where they watched that miracle happen. This is like, we're looking at the same thing, but it's not two different vantage points.
That's so important.
It's through this filter of this agenda, we're trying to create this movement, and I think, actually, I don't know. I think there's people in each of them that actually believe this is for the better. I think most of the people in it believe this is gonna, and then a lot of the people running it are like using all the good-heartedness of people wanting to save a nation and wanting to accomplish good, and are creating more and more extremes. We're moving farther and farther and farther away from each other. And so in 1996, it was, well, are you Bill Clinton or Bob Dole? But it might as well be, you're in this lawn, I'm in this lawn, and hey, come on over and we'll have a drink in my front yard on a Friday night while we watch our kids play and have an amazing conversation. And that is how close we actually are, even though we're disagreeing on some big things. And now it is, if you are in this party, move to one of these cities. And if you are in this party, move to one of these states. And we're all gonna have this vantage point of what's happening, or see everything through this filter with this narrative, and the opposite's true over here. So we're truly like experiencing a reality in our country where people aren't living the same ones.
Right.
Because we live everything through media. You know what I mean? And so how the heck are you supposed to have conversations when you're not even living in the same, you're not living in the same reality, even though we're living in the same country. The media has ruined everything.
Pretty much.
And I am so confident in that.
I know.
Obviously, it's done a lot of good.
I agree.
And it has just, everything that happens gets blown out of, everything's to make money and to sell, and so even the good that's over here is, what's true anymore? I don't know.
I would say the media mixed with our inability to think critically.
Yes.
And go, okay, just because this is on a screen doesn't necessarily mean that it's true.
Right. But if it agrees with what I want it to mean, then I'm going to say it's true.
For sure it's true. Yeah. You have to also utilize that principle for things that agree with your worldview.
And that's why I'm like, I don't think anyone's ignorant to the fact of the state of where we're at with how polarized things are. That's why I'm like, why would you put a sign in your front yard?
You changed my mind.
You know.
I'm going to take mine down.
You know that, like, it's almost like they're putting a middle finger
Take your Valentine's Day sign down, okay?
It's like a middle finger to your neighbors that disagree.
I'm voting for
Don't
love.
bother.
No, it's true.
Don't want to know you.
It's true.
That's what in this time and space, that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah. Because everybody knows the temperature. It's not like
you have to. If you have a political sign, you're paying attention enough.
Yes.
That you have to know.
You have to know that this is going to bother a lot of people if I do this.
And it bothers
me. And that
me.
you like that.
So I ripped all their signs out. No, I'm just kidding. Can you
Yeah.
imagine? Hey,
I have a
found
take
this.
on it.
Oh, okay.
So,
Go, Kayla.
Political takes with Kayla. Newest segment.
Oh gosh.
Oh, gosh.
So if we were to go back in time into like the 1900s, we have like the newspaper. That's like there's only one real outlet. So that could have been skewed though. So maybe it was
Sure.
like people were being fed like not great news. I feel like now with the media we can see everything. So I feel like we should now be able to form our own opinion since we were able to watch it.
Wow.
And not be like not let the media like sway us in any way. I feel like back then they only have one outlet, whether it's also like through a radio or whatever. So I feel like now we should be grown-ups and be like, let's actually watch it for myself and let me now that we have all this
It's a
like
really great point.
access to like see everything and hear everything, use your own senses and like make your own conclusion.
Yeah,
I feel like
Yeah.
back then they only like they didn't have anything.
You
And
just-
so
I think there was also, though, an integrity
that's
that
fair.
we don't have anymore in the media. I took a
And there are people with it, with integrity.
Yeah, sure, of
Like
course.
you were
Yeah.
about to, you were going to
Two
go
or
into that
three-
world.
2 or 3 people out there.
Yeah.
I was in school for broadcast journalism from 2007 to 11.
Right.
Okay.
So the iPhone came out in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
and 4 years later, the program had to be shut down and rebuilt. So my degree was very much like in a limbo of the
Wow.
time we were in. But
Wow.
I took a journalism and law class, and so many of the things like principles, I'm like, nobody does that now.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is keeping that. Nobody is paying attention. Like it's a free for all. So I think there is truth to that,
That's fair.
that you were fed a narrative, but I think that people were held to a standard and held accountable in a way that they're not now.
Yeah.
Mm.
And as technology rose, critical
Mhm.
thinking needed to rise and
Yeah.
discernment needed to rise. And I'm
But
not,
discernment did not, maybe.
no, I think it's gone the other direction. And so it's like with more power, with more resource comes more responsibility for us to have conversations like this.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's what's missing. I think that's a really great point, Kayla.
Yeah.
That's
But it's hard. It's like I think I'm a critical thinker and genuinely want to know. I'm like, I just want to
Yeah.
know what's really happening.
Yeah.
So using like, I'm listening to this and I'm reading that. And then I, at the end of the day, go, I don't really know what is going on there right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah.
Mhm.
it's hard to trust.
Yeah, it is. It's really hard to trust.
Well,
But
that's encouraging. It's a great time we
That's
live
good.
in.
mm-hmm.
Good.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Um,
but there's been times in history before where everybody, there's even cycles of it in nations and in people groups where just like nature goes through seasons and individuals go through seasons and families go through seasons, nations go through seasons.
Yeah.
And you can look back on the history of the United States and see like almost 4 seasons play out where each individual season lasts about 20 to 25 years. And we go through all of them in about 80 to 100 years. There's a turnover of that.
Yeah.
And how a lot of people, sociologists, like this isn't conspiracy stuff. This is just history
Yeah.
and observing. And sociologists and everybody who studies that, historians going, we've been in a winter, for about 20 years now. And the United States has been before, where everybody thinks, Christians, let's just say Christians think one of 2 things. Either Jesus is coming back any day, or how does this how could this possibly get better? How can the fever possibly break? But I think if you've ever had a bad fever before, I think you do feel that when your temperature's the hottest, right before your fever breaks is, I don't see this thing ever. I don't see me ever feeling good again.
Yeah.
When you feel that sick, you're like, I will never. I've had, the few moments where if you've ever had a stomach flu, where you're throwing up in the middle of the night with a fever and you're on the bathroom floor. I have had a few moments where I'm like, God, you could kill me now and I will give you a hug
Yeah.
when I see you in heaven. Like this is so miserable. How will I ever feel good again?
Yeah.
I forgot what it's like to even feel healthy because of the pain I've been in for the last 24 hours. And I think that's similar to what we are all experiencing right now is, could we ever feel good again? No, the fever breaks. Jesus comes back or the fever breaks.
Yeah. Yes.
And we're close.
Yeah.
Close could mean this November or, possibly 4 Novembers from now. Well, I don't know. Everybody's saying we've been in it for about 20 years and seasons are about 20 to 24 years or so of a winter season at least.
Yeah.
And don't wait until the fever breaks to live your life and to start a company or to get married or to buy that home or to take a risk or to invest or to plant a church. They say like, man, people who do those things when the fever is high and when everything is just generally more resistance against you, you will be stronger for it in the next season. Yeah. And so live your life and stop waiting and
start a political sign business.
But that
brilliant.
I'm telling you guys.
The more I learn about
Be
that,
a viral
though,
podcast.
Yeah.
Doing it. We're doing this.
It does give me a lot of hope, though.
Yeah.
It gives me a lot of like, okay, there's hope.
Because springtime's always after winter.
Exactly.
And new life
Yep.
and abundance and all of that.
Mhm.
So I think it's a good, I think it's a great word.
Yep.
Good job, guys.
Wow. Well,
let's call it, huh?
Yeah, that was,
Let's go to lunch.
Let's talk a little bad theology, and then we'll wrap it up. We've got some fun things, but we'll save them for next week.
Yeah, next week.
I sure created a storm with that political question.
Yeah, it was a great
Amazing
question.
You can do that.
Stir the pot.
3 weeks of bad theology have been surrounding week 1.
God's plans.
does God expect God to make everything easy?
Show me the money.
And money.
Uh-huh.
Anything you guys want to specifically dive into of those 3?
There's been a lot.
There has been.
Let's just start with this weekend. I thought you did such a good job
Thanks,
talking
man.
about money.
I appreciate
such
it.
It's one of those topics that has so many landmines everywhere.
Yeah.
And I loved how you address kind of both sides, both ways that we get off when it comes to money, the prosperity gospel and the poverty gospel.
Yeah.
In such a balanced way. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, it felt like one of those times where you're like, okay, but, and then I was like, all right, let me take that card from you with this. And then I'm going to rebuttal that. And then I'm going to speak to this side and this side. It was well handled.
It felt like a
'cause there's-
chess game that I could
Yeah,
prep for ahead of time as
It
I
is.
was prepping that message.
Yes.
You know,
It
but
is a
way
chess
to set and pastor. Oh, dang it!
Yes.
He moved to that space because I've asked all those questions before in my own life.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
why.
yeah.
What's your bent more towards? Poverty or prosperity?
Towards poverty.
Same.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I've had a couple of seasons where I've felt myself going more towards prosperity, but for the most part, it's scarcity. It's I got to give it all away. It's reading the rich young ruler story
Right.
and being like, okay, so now I have to go and sell even my Chevy Cruze and just Uber to church
you can
every
make
day.
$400. That'd be great.
And give that $400 to the poor.
Mhm.
That's taken a lot of work for me to go. How am I playing small with the skills that God's given me, with the talents that God has given me? And even when it comes to like thinking abundant right now with how I steward the money I do have and invest the money that I do have, that's always a challenge for me. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, for sure. I tend to like not even I don't even pay attention. I feel like some of those scriptures that are more about like prosperity and building and wealth and those kinds of things. I'm like, I've probably read that, but I didn't retain it. But the story of the rich young ruler, when Jesus says it's easier for a man to pass through the eye of a needle or a camel, easier for a camel to pass
Which
through
got
the eye
an
of a
email.
needle.
I got an email yesterday of somebody who, it was a very kind, awesome email. He said, hey, I love the message. Loved how you set it up. And I'm curious, what do you do about that scripture?
How do you reconcile? This is a hard
Great
question.
question.
So speak to it, because there's clear examples of people with wealth that built the kingdom in ways that other people didn't.
Yes.
And then Jesus also talks very strong, saying things like,
Mm-hmm.
sounding like it's nearly impossible for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you reconcile those two things?
Few answers. With that passage is so terrifying at first,
Mm-hmm.
and the more you dive into it, the more you realize, oh, this is actually a very freeing, beautiful passage. That from 30,000 feet, Jesus is pointing out, listen, the more money you get, the harder this is going to be. I love it when people are like, well, I'm not going to tithe right now because I'm making 10,000, but when I make 100,000, then I'll tithe.
No.
And it's like, no, you won't, because you think it'll be easier. It's actually way harder.
Yeah.
The more you acquire, the more you have to lose.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that Jesus is saying there is, hey, yes, with wealth you can do a lot for the kingdom, but with great power comes great responsibility. So to the wealthy out there, just be warned that you have to be more intentional about that 10% and about living generous above and beyond. And you have to have people in your life who are checking in with you, and you have to have these systems set up, because it does just logically get harder to keep a kingdom hands open mindset the more that you have to lose. And so I think at like a basic level, that's what Jesus is saying. There's a lot of scholars that have debated about that passage for years.
Oh, yeah.
One of them is that there was a actual spot called the eye of the needle, that as you were trading, you would put all your stuff on camels and go to the next town to trade and sell. And the thought is that this one spot was so narrow that they would actually have to unpack everything off of the camels in order to walk the camels through, and then they could pack it back on. It's kind of like when a raft gets wrapped around a rock,
Oh,
and
here
you
we
have
go.
to hit all the
I'm
dry
back in
bags
Yosemite.
off of it.
Wow.
Oh, we hear you, God.
Mhm.
And so the idea being, wealth isn't a good thing or a bad thing. To your point, it's a neutral thing. But when you have it, you have to constantly put it down, get away from all of it for a moment to reassess. God, are we still good? God, is there anything you want to speak to me? Like, I'm thinking about like me for the last couple of days in Yosemite. It was just good to like reassess and realign and go, God, where are we at here? Where are we at there? Is there any adjustments you want to do before I get back into the game?
Yeah.
And so I think if you do have wealth, you just have to be intentional about that. So that's where I would start there.
Okay, what would you guys say to somebody who has a God-given capacity, tremendous capacity to build and create wealth and prosperity, who really worries about that verse?
Yeah.
And so because of it, they may never do it to the full degree that they
Right.
could,
Right.
because they go, well, it's too
Dude,
there's too much danger over there. The rapids are too fast over there. So I need to steer clear.
I think that's one of the greatest tragedies
Yeah.
for the kingdom,
Yes.
because you can do so much for the kingdom of heaven when you
Uh-huh.
step into your gifting. What was your line? We play small with what God calls us to
We
maximize.
apologize
Apologize
for what God has given us to maximize, because Christians with bad money theology tend to criticize. And I think that is spot on. And I think there's a large portion, I think there's a lot of people in our church, we all have it in us. You guys just admitted that. I know that to be true about me.
Yeah.
I can't really figure out how to shake it. I notice it in a ton of our friends who are very gifted and hardworking, people of a lot of integrity, who are so incredibly generous and have this, I'll just use me, I'm the culprit. If somebody comes to visit our home in Georgetown that we moved into 14 months ago, that me and Sam have done a ton of work on, and say they walk in and they go, love your home, man, what a beautiful home. I figure out ways in the first 10 minutes to subtly find a way to let them know, like, hey, we've been house broke every season.
We're
But
doing
like
terrible.
when we first bought our condo, in Littleton, we ate out at Chipotle once a month. But God made that appreciated, and so then we leveraged that into our first house in Austin, and then the same thing again, and then again, and we barely got into this one, but we're investing because we just believe, and it's not because of salaries historically for the last decade of my life that is why I live here. It's because, and why, and I obsess over that in my mind. I'm trying to figure out ways to make sure they know, I'm not a. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it is. Why am I apologize for this. It's almost, I have this bent in me that I think for Christian critics with bad theology will actually be on my side if I'm more poor.
Right.
I'm somehow more righteous because of that. And therefore, every time I feel like I could be on the verge of a big breakthrough or blessing or increase here,
Mhm.
I kind of don't really go for it
Yeah.
because of that.
Wow.
I don't know if you guys can relate. I sense that in like so many of the people we do life with, and even in our church. I think it's a bigger, it's a swinging of that pendulum, and I don't know what it is. It almost feels more noble to be like, we'll work hard to be generous, but not so that we can fully enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
You guys made fun of me for that at my roast on my 30th birthday.
I did.
You did.
I did. Yeah.
Because that's always been me. It's like,
Well,
dude,
and
cool,
it's, yeah.
cool shirt.
Yeah.
And then I have to be like, oh yeah, I was on sale $5 at H&M or whatever, like
Yeah.
I've always been like, felt that.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly why that is. I think that there's probably you could probably study like from a sociology standpoint, like generations where our grandparents, like the Great Depression generation, was very, very poor.
Yeah.
And they really built out of that and out of
Yeah.
World War II.
Mhm.
And then our parents' generation came up kind of with more opportunity and more wealth was possible.
Yeah.
And a lot of that generation flaunted it, where it was like, look at what we did, and so then our
Yeah.
generation came in and it was kind of like, well, that feels weird. I don't want to be like all about my stuff. And then you put a Christian narrative to that. And so maybe we swung the pendulum kind of back towards like, better to
Yeah.
have nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's like a psychology to it that I know I have.
Dude,
Mhm.
I hate it
Mhm.
because I live with it every day. And I'm like, I feel like a lot of the people I love do also. And I think that's why I hate it. I'm like, I want that just to be like shaken free.
Yeah.
Like if one of you guys came to me and said, hey, like I'm thinking about buying, a Raptor pickup truck or something, and you wanted to actually, how we talked about a few episodes, it was like 25 episodes ago now, I guess, about
So many episodes.
Too many.
All of them great.
yeah, all of them amazing. About
Each gone viral in its own way.
us kind of being open and honest with each other about money. And
Yeah.
hey, I'm thinking I have put off for years buying a new car because I have a Chevy Cruze that breaks down every month.
Yeah.
And part of me wants everybody in the church to see that I have a Chevy Cruze that breaks down every month.
Yeah.
Even though financially, you're probably sinking as much money into trying to keep that car running.
Yes.
As if you just put all that together and bought a car that wouldn't break down.
And I'm probably close to getting a car that I like, hey, I really enjoy this car and it's a blessing.
Yes.
And it's going to be really hard for me to enjoy it. Whereas if either of you guys did that, I would be so
fired
over the
up.
moon about it.
Yeah.
I'm
So
like,
funny.
let's go and enjoy it. And you
Right.
are one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life and so generous and good with money.
Yeah.
Enjoy the crap out of that car.
I think it's like, as a
Mhm.
Christian, if you're smart with your money, like you can never get like affirmed in that. Because there's so many
Yes.
Christians, it's not even that they make a ton of money. They're just smart with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They budget, they save, they invest.
They
and that
just
creates
actually do what God
more.
tells them to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like kind of looked at as not as Christian or whatever. But at the same time, anyone who hears a sermon like that, like if you live in America, you are already in the rich.
Yes.
Even if you don't have much money here,
Right.
you already compared to the rest of the world. So everyone has to be convicted by that in both
Mhm.
ways, right? Because
Mhm.
it doesn't matter what your paycheck says. If you live in this country, you are among the top probably 5% in the world.
Mhm.
And I think that there's a reality that I think Jesus wants us to always keep with us, but I think we take it the wrong way maybe.
Mhm.
Because I do think it's important, like to send that email and ask that question shows a heart that's like, okay, but I don't want to get this
Yes.
wrong.
Awesome.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to mishandle wealth, or I don't want to be someone who Jesus would say, hey, sorry, bud, but
Yeah.
you're rich and it's for the wrong reasons or whatever. So I think that it's like a unique challenge that I think Jesus is laying out for us,
Mhm.
where I've always thought that commentary and context of him saying that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
To put it actually like, oh, there's a physical place those people are picturing
Yeah.
where you have to unpack the camel and get it through this gate. Like it's a challenge, but it's possible.
Right.
Because when you just read that as someone with no context, you go, well, that is literally impossible. So all rich people go to hell?
Yeah.
Is that what
Right.
Jesus is saying? Well, that can't be true because
Right.
there's people with all kinds of, but there's all the lessons, I think, that if you are someone that even just lives in America or you make a whole lot of money, I think you need to keep asking that question to yourself a lot. I think
Yeah.
there's a healthy conviction, but it turns more into like a play small haunting.
Yes.
I just feel bad all the time.
Correct.
For us. And I don't think that's the right posture.
No.
Yeah.
That I'm guilty of.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah, I the statement of like last year, the church gave away more money than the U.S. government gave away,
Mm-hmm.
and I said that, and like the room erupted, and it as they should.
Yeah.
But then let's be honest also about why was the church able to do that?
Yeah.
It's because Christians
Yeah.
Yep.
who don't shrink back and play small
Right.
with the capacity God gave them
Good.
generate a lot of wealth and do really well and live very generous.
Yeah.
And that is how the church has changed
Yeah.
the world.
Mhm.
And so, I think both of these jobs are equally noble. You have the person who who maybe raises support or makes $45K a year working at this nonprofit.
Yeah.
That's very noble.
Mhm.
And at the same time, that nonprofit once a year will do a big fundraiser. Well, where they have to invite these
The rich
people,
people, yeah.
who kind of went the other way,
Yeah.
but maybe because of a calling, not because they're less noble, but because
Mhm.
God gave them this gift and this capacity to generate a lot of wealth,
Yeah.
to then pour into this nonprofit.
Good.
And so let's not forget the reason the church was able to do that
Yeah.
is because of a group of people who think very big
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then live very generous.
Yeah.
And I just want to set some people free to do that
Yeah.
and give some people just permission, man, to go and live. Don't play small with your life because of critics who have bad
Right.
theology.
So the rich young ruler,
Right.
why does Jesus say to him, hey, it's cool that you do good. You're a good person
Yeah.
in your mind. You want to follow me, sell all your stuff.
Because he loved money.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you can have that. You could have that guy, a rich young ruler who doesn't.
Exactly.
But
Right.
Jesus knows this guy's heart. He says,
Yeah.
your heart is so wrapped up in your possessions
Yeah.
and your wealth.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so the only way you're fully going to be able to do this and follow me is to sell your possessions, AKA put me back on the throne in your heart.
Yeah.
Make me your focus again. See, I think Jesus is so good that I don't know if he would have just given it all back to him, maybe, or that guy started following him and then the guy realized I need none of this and was content for the rest of his life to have nothing.
Yeah.
Or he kept Jesus his focus for the rest of his life and over time, once again, became a rich, not as young as before, ruler, where now that was fruit of his life that he utilized, but it wasn't his focus because Jesus was.
Yeah.
Be a fun hypothetical fictional book to write called the old wealthy steward.
Yeah.
Of like him,
Yeah.
If what if he had actually said yes to Jesus' invitation?
Yeah, that could be cool.
But I would say this: since Genesis 3, when Adam and Eve ate the fruit, and then they heard God coming and walking in the coolness of the day, they hid and they sewed fig leaves together to try to cover themselves up.
Yeah.
And since then, we have all been trying to do the same thing, trying to find as many fig leaves as we can to cover up because we're afraid of who we actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see Jesus talking to the rich young ruler, and he just sees a guy that's covering up with all of these leaves of all of this wealth that I've earned and this power that I've accumulated. And Jesus is going, hey, bud, the good news is better than that. You want to come follow me? First, put all of those things down that you try to hide behind. And I don't need your accomplishments. I just need you. And so come follow me. And he unfortunately just wasn't ready to do that yet.
Yep.
But I would say it had nothing to do with actually the wealth or the money. To your point, it had to do with the love of it and how he was trying to lean on it
Yeah.
instead of just being who he was created to be.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to idolatry. That's the whole battle of the Old Testament is just these people keep on finding other things to worship. And what Jesus realizes or knows, doesn't realize, is money is the number one thing that will most quickly
Number
become an
one.
idol
Yeah.
for you. The number one reason for divorce is
Yeah.
money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either because it's become an idol
Mm-hmm.
or because it's a stress.
Mm-hmm.
But really, when money is the biggest stress in your life, it's an idol still. It's what you focus on all the time. It's where all of your attention is. It's what you think about. So I think you can even live in the idolatry and love money when you don't have much because you're still obsessing over it all the time.
Oh, big time.
And for both of those places, the answer is stewardship and what God teaches. Because for that couple who's on the verge of divorce because money is such a stress for them, the answer is to start stewarding it to get out of financial stress
Yeah.
so that you're not living paycheck to paycheck, but you budget and you're smart and you're diligent and you steward it the right way. And that opens your hands to things like generosity, where you find life through that.
Mhm.
And a year later, if you actually practice those biblical principles, Dave Ramsey can make that easy for you. Your marriage won't be on the verge anymore if that's that stress for you.
Yeah.
But it's an idol in a totally negative light for so many people. And I think that's true for a lot of people that are in ministry, a lot of people that have kind of that poverty gospel mentality that feel more noble, but actually money is just as much as an idol for you.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
obsess over not being supposed to have it, but you're stressed and you feel like
But yeah, you
can't
worry
pay
about it
your
all the
bills,
time.
and you become a burden to other people around you.
Right.
Um,
And you can help
So
less
I-
people around you.
yeah. So for whatever reason the question's being asked, it's that heart posture that I think Jesus is always trying to draw us back to. And there's times where we have to go, yeah, it's an idol in my life right now. Either because I'm so focused on, fixated on the stress of it, or because I've started to make some and I'm kind of getting lost in what I can buy and what I can have and trying to find my fulfillment through that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that comes back to then, okay, well, are you stewarding this biblically? Are you generous? Are you sacrificial? Are you giving? Is your wealth pouring out for the sake of other people? Are you building the kingdom with it? And if
Mhm.
that's the case, then don't live in fear. Don't be
Mhm.
freaked out that you have a lot of money if you're living with biblical principles. But I think Jesus wants us to talk about this a lot and keep coming back to it because it can so quickly become
Good.
that idol.
Yeah. I think a lot of Christians get really timid. And when I say timid, I mean that is a bad word, not as like a caution, because there is a healthy caution, but I mean timid as in he hasn't given you a spirit of timidity. You're just afraid. And we get timid around wealth and power because those two things have
Historically.
reaped
drugs,
so
yeah.
much destruction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? However,
Uh-huh.
they reap destruction when they're in the hands of
Right.
people with selfish ambition and motives
Yeah.
and worldly pursuits.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, and what we need are Christians who think kingdom minded, who have enough integrity to be. It's like Frodo with the ring. He could have that ring
Mhm.
and not have it consume him.
Yeah.
And we needed him to have it.
Mhm.
That story, he needed it.
Yeah.
I think we need Christians who can have wealth and have power
Yeah.
and wield it, and it doesn't consume them, and they don't use it to destroy, but they use it because those two things can actually build
Sure.
and do so much good. And I think there's some people in the world who maybe understand that more than some Christians. It's like, guys, we need
Yeah.
Mhm.
Come on.
we need Christian leaders to rise up who have enough integrity where they can be around that. And because then we can do so much good because of it. Because wealth and power it's not like if we don't take it, nobody else will.
Yeah.
Those things are going to be in the hands of somebody.
Mhm.
And I think the whole world would agree. You want those two things to be in the hands of people who are humble and want to build something that is going to be beneficial for all people and look like the kingdom of heaven, basically. And so,
Yeah.
So
I don't
good.
know.
There's people that were part of Jesus' entourage that were rich that he didn't tell them to go sell everything.
No.
They were bankrolling his ministry.
Right.
He
Yeah.
didn't say that to everyone
Right.
because there were some people that were stewarding. They
Yeah.
were handling it properly. I think you brought up people would be like, well, Jesus didn't have any money. Like he lived poor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jesus, one of his goals in showing us how to live was you don't need anything of this world. All you need is me.
Right.
So I'm not going to have any of that stuff, right? Because I want to show you can live life without it. But that doesn't mean there weren't people that were part of his ministry that did.
Yeah.
You know, same with Paul. Paul had all kinds of idols in his life that had to get stripped away, and he had to go live
Big
a life where
time.
all that was taken
Big time.
so that his heart could turn to Jesus. So
Mhm.
I think sometimes we copy paste things and think that everything applies to everybody the same, but it's a context to the life you're living and the way you approach things. And are you stewarding and handling this the way Jesus is calling you to? And if not, then that's why maybe this triggered you. This sermon was kind of
Yeah.
like, ooh, there's some things I don't like about that. And I think the first question to ask is not, should money not be talked about in church? Or is this, what's in me
Mhm.
on whichever side of the pendulum I fall on that I need God to work in so that I don't play small, so that I don't set up an idol in my life or keep worshiping this idol, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's really good. I really like that. There's a professor kind of blown up on YouTube right now. I haven't listened to a ton of his stuff, nor do I even know if I agree with everything that he says, but he says a lot of really brilliant stuff. His name's Scott Galloway.
Yeah.
And he did an interview recently with Simon Sinek where you got two guys who disagree really well on some stuff.
Mhm.
It's actually a really cool portrayal of friends and disagreement, but keeping the bigger picture in mind. And I don't know, it was really cool to watch. But one thing he talked about a lot was there's just not enough time in a sermon, man. There's like so many things you want to say and so many things you have to cut. But I think if I could say one more thing to our congregation of people who are asking the question, like, what is my purpose and my passion? What should I do with my life? And he gives a piece of advice that I think it can be brilliant and not always true, but can be very brilliant. And he said, don't follow your passions, because that's what everybody's doing. And that's why we go from job to job to job to job. Is because I'm just not passionate about that. I'm just not. Yeah. Well, first of all, you don't expect your job to give you meaning. Assign meaning to your job. Good. And then it will give you meaning. Good. So that's first things first. But also, he said, there's not a successful person anywhere who followed their passions. Other than like maybe Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he said, but rare. For the rest of us, he gave an example of this one guy who started a soapstone company where they do soapstone refinishing in kitchens and started small, and now they do really wealthy neighborhoods. And he said, this guy did my kitchen. He charges a crazy amount of money, and he's doing all the kitchens on our street. And this guy makes like $1 million a year just for him. And he's very generous, and he does a lot of cool things, but he really loves life, and he gets to give his family an amazing life, and he gets to take his kids on cool trips, and they don't stress about money, and it's not a weight on their shoulder, and they help a lot of people, and they give a lot of money away. And he said there was never a time in his life where he would have told you soapstone was his passion.
Yeah, right.
Right. But he lives now a very passionate life. Wow. Because he found something that he saw an opportunity, and he went, I could be really good at this. I could be one of the best at this and do really well. So, because I think the older you get, the more you start to realize your passion is your kids, and your passion is your legacy, and your passion is the church you're part of, and your passion is the life that you and your family can live and the people that you can help. And if you can think different, even about money sometimes when it comes to, I think there's a lot of young people in our church where I would say, you asking the question, what is my passion, is keeping you from the most passionate life that you're dreaming about, because you refuse to go and do something that you just see. Maybe that wasn't my passion, but I could add a lot of meaning to that and get really good at something like soapstone kitchens, and I'll fall in love with it as I do. And I will create all of this that I can change the world with, starting with mine because of it. And I think there's a lot of us who are hesitant to go and really do that. And I don't know who this is for, but I felt like I wanted to say that to a group of people in our church. Stop asking that question and don't shy away from asking, what can I do that's actually going to create wealth and generate wealth? Because I can do a lot of good with it, and I can enjoy life a lot because of it.
And you'll be amazed at how much passion comes along the way as you start to get really good at something.
You'll start to really like soapstone kitchens. You really will. And for, like, you'll like to get out of bed in the morning.
That's so
and it didn't start that way,
man.
So be there and work really hard at it and look for opportunities. And that could be one of the talents that God has given you. Don't bury it. Go create more with it.
Amen to that.
All of this to say, congratulations on your political sign business.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
I would like to buy in for 10% of the company.
Yep.
So just send over the paperwork.
We're taking investors right
now. Next week, we're going to have a little conversation with artificial intelligence.
Whoa.
Also known as AI.
Allen Iverson.
So that will be interesting. We'll talk about that. Kayla's got something up her sleeve.
Yep. I'll be wearing long sleeves next week.
Oh, boy.
Let's go.
That was a great line in your sermon, by the way.
Yeah.
I've got nothing on my sleeves. I wore short sleeves just to prove it. That was great.
What are you going to talk about this weekend? You want to give us a preview? Or don't?
You know how we say we are imperfect people pursuing a perfect God?
I've heard that.
People amen that when we say it until they experience the imperfections of those imperfect people. And then they tend to walk away from faith. So, bad theology week 4.
I really like that.
We are perfect people pursuing a perfect God. Something like that. I haven't. It's a working title.
I like
And the
that.
fifth and
That's
final
where we're
week, do you
heading.
think you can incorporate political signs in front yards into your
I know I can.
Okay.
Yeah,
I sure do.
please do.
I hope you
It
do.
would be a good one.
It'll be a fun one.
If you listen to the end and you're a man in this area of Austin, Texas, men's conference Friday night.
Yes.
We'd love to see you there. It's
Yep.
going to be
It's
awesome.
going to be awesome.
Yes.
Until next time, hats off.
Hats off to you, E.
Hat Creek.